Hey you, wanna see who the best Tsukihime girl is? Well... Wait, crap. Hold on, there. So yeah, y'all. Today we'll be making a video about Kohaku, who we all know is the best girl in Tsukihime. Let's be for real for real. She may seem super basic and like a generic Genki girl on the outside, but don't let that fool you, as in my opinion, she's probably the most complex character in this whole game. Before we actually get into how she's complex, I just gotta say, spoilers, for like the entirety of Tsukihime. Don't spoil yourself and keep watching this video, bro. Just read Tsukihime, you won't regret it. So, you have 5 seconds to get out of here. 5, 4, 2, 1, okay. So now let's analyze this broken doll who orchestrates many of the events of Tsukihime, particularly in the Far Side routes. Hey, I told you that there'd be spoilers. Now, before we truly begin the analysis, one small thing. If you want a much deeper analysis of Kohaku's character, I'd highly recommend watching this video. It's definitely great. So now, before we talk about Kohaku herself, let's talk about the main themes of Tsukihime, as I'll be focusing on how Kohaku contributes to those themes. First, Kohaku contributes to her own route's theme of rejecting apathy. This theme explored in her own route actually builds on Tsukihime's overall theme of enjoying life, as of course if you act apathetic, you won't be enjoying life. But let's define what being apathetic even means. It means to just kill your emotions, to act as if nothing matters in life.
Life is nothing!
And to just be indifferent to your struggles and joys. As a child, Kohaku tries to embody this idea in its entirety. She tried to feel nothing, believing if she couldn't know hope and happiness, that at least also means she wouldn't know despair or depression either, hence this quote right below. However, when Kohaku grows up, she gets a silly little idea on how to best avoid pain. Instead of only feeling and acting indifferent towards everything, what if she still feels indifferent but now acts cheerful towards everything? To pretend as if you have no problems and that everything is perfect. Such a life sounds great, doesn't it? It did for her. Yet, the whole point of Kohaku's character is to show how such a life is not cool. How is this conveyed? Well, first, we see that having this mind of a machine is simply not achievable.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Even though Kohaku has been trying to become a doll for nearly a decade now, she still can't keep her emotions from peeking out of her shell every now and then. All it takes for Kohaku to start revealing her emotions is for her to spend time with Shiki. So basically, Kohaku shows us that even if we try to kill our emotions, we may be able to avoid pain for some events, but there will always be parts of our humanity that we simply can't let go. In Kohaku's case, this was her feelings towards Akiya, Shiki, and Hisui. Hell, even at the end of Hisui's route, Kohaku herself comes to this conclusion. There's a line in the story which summarizes everything best. It won't hurt as much, but you can't get rid of it at all. Now, let's switch gears and talk about how Kohaku actually gets development in the story. To do this, we primarily have to discuss her relationship with Shiki. So, you know how I mentioned that at first, Kohaku tried to act completely emotionless, even excluding happiness, as a child? Well, the reason she wouldn't become completely hollow is because of Shiki Tono. Just by seeing Shiki play around, Kohaku would feel some hope, a semblance of happiness. She'd actually resent Shiki for this because, as she began feeling hope, she could taste the despair of her situation just that much more. Really, this would cause mixed feelings to well up inside her towards Shiki. She resented him for making her feel pain again, and yet he was essentially her last hope. Her mixed feelings on Shiki is probably the reason why she has mixed feelings towards becoming a doll. She doesn't know if she should pursue becoming a doll entirely, or if she should still hold hope. That probably explains her reasoning for leaving everything up to the promise of the ribbon. If Shiki remembers it, then Kohaku chooses hope, and if not, she just remains a broken doll. This next point I'll cover is primarily only my interpretation, without much text in Tsukihime to back this up. But I believe that Kohaku probably felt resentment towards Shiki for another reason. Both he and Hisui had not done anything to help Kohaku. Of course, they couldn't be expected to know what was up or even do anything about it as young kids, and yet it's painfully clear how much Kohaku was hurt seeing Shiki and Hisui leave her alone. I'm willing to bet this was just an added reason for her to become a doll. She believes that if she's ever in pain, she can't rely on others to help her out, something she learned as a child. But to bear the pain, what she can do is eliminate any emotions and put on a fake happiness, so that the pain hurts less. This part of Kohaku's character shows another reason why the promise is significant to her. It shows her that there are people who truly care about her and who she can rely on, because if the ribbon is returned, it shows that Shiki cared about her enough to keep a promise made a whole decade ago. So of course, when Shiki eventually returns this ribbon to her, Kohaku realizes that she can actually confide in those around her, that there are people who care about her, that won't just leave her alone when she's in pain like back then. This promise being fulfilled and the fact that Shiki loves her probably made her realize she doesn't have to kill her emotions anymore, that she can instead just rely on others in times of pain. So that's just one way in which Kohaku develops, learning to trust and rely on others. Keep in mind though that this is largely just my interpretation. It's honestly just me trying to find the deeper meaning behind this single line. Next, another reason Kohaku rejects being a doll is because she's learned that one should not avoid pain if it means giving up on what you want from life. Let's observe a scene in Kohaku's route to see what I mean. In the scene, Kohaku is confused why Shiki would even come back to the mansion.
Why?
He surely should have known how punishing it would be to leave his comfortable little home life with the Arimas and return to a mansion he remembered little about, just so that he'd live with those who were essentially strangers. Not only that, but of course every member of the Tona family besides Akiya resents him, and they definitely make his life miserable at every given opportunity. So, even knowing how painful his life would be, why did he still come back? Well, because he thought it was more important to not leave Akiya alone like he did when he moved away, and he also had his promise to uphold as well. At first, I thought this discussion about the pain Shiki would feel was just a segue so that our protagonist could talk about the ribbon in front of Kohaku, but I think there's more depth than that to this conversation. I believe it shows how, despite the pain Shiki would face, there were some things more important to him which were worth enduring pain for. These things being, of course, not abandoning Akiya and the maid who gave him the ribbon. This same discussion pops up again when Shiki rejects Akiya after she's gone crazy. If he lies and says he loves Akiya, obviously that means he'll be living a lie and have to give up on Kohaku, but it at least means he won't be eviscerated from planet Earth by an angry Akiya. And yet, he still rejects Akiya. What's his reasoning for doing this? Well, Shiki says he'd much rather risk his life rather than live a lie, because he believes living a lie, like Kohaku, will eventually render his life without meaning. And so, he chooses to face the pain that will come fighting Akiya, instead of running away from the pain. So, why do I bring up these two scenes with Shiki on a video about Kohaku? Well, these scenes definitely had to impact Kohaku in some way. Seeing Shiki not running away from painful events inspires her to do the same. Another way in which Kohaku develops is by being shown that life is something to be cherished thanks to our boy Shiki Tono. See, Shiki has to live with chronic anemia and recurring chest pains. This not only means that he experiences pain frequently, but both conditions could lead to his premature demise. Not only that, but Shiki's also been through his share of painful experiences, like almost dying and being kicked out of his own family, which hates him. And yet, despite these troubles, Shiki still cherishes the life that he has, unlike Kohaku. Even with everything that should be bogging down his mood, he doesn't become a bitter person. This is different from my last point, as Shiki not only chooses to face painful things head on, but he makes sure to keep an optimistic outlook on life too. This of course inspires Kohaku, because she must have felt like life couldn't be enjoyed, as of course there's no way she would have become a doll otherwise. She learns from Shiki that not only are there things worth experiencing pain for, but in general you should just be happy and live life to the fullest. This is especially impactful as, even if Shiki hasn't suffered nearly to the same degree as Kohaku, he's had his fair share of hardships. If say, Shiki was someone who's never suffered at all, then Kohaku wouldn't have been nearly as impacted by these words, as they'd just ring hollow to her. There is one final piece of development Kohaku gets. She gets confirmation that she can still grow feelings through her love for Shiki. While Shiki cares for Kohaku, and Kohaku begins to feel something, she doesn't know if those are her true feelings. That's because, as Kohaku tried to lie to herself and disconnect herself from her feelings by pretending to be happy, that obviously means she was less able to discern what her true feelings were, to the point where she doesn't even know if her true feelings are liking Shiki, or if she's actually pretending to. But, in the scene where Kohaku confesses all this, Shiki replies saying that if she thinks she loves someone, then that means she truly does. It's extremely difficult to fake an emotion like love after all. Just ask Kirei. I believe this scene was the last push Kohaku needed to reject being a doll. I think Shiki's words have allowed Kohaku to let go of the last thing holding her back, which is the fact that she may not be able to love anyone anymore. Now having confirmation from Shiki that this is cap, she can now fully embrace her new life. Kohaku's development not only makes her a better character, but it also helps to further the main theme of Kohaku's route. We see additional reasons for why becoming dead inside is bad, like how some things are worth experiencing pain for and such. Alright, now that we're done talking about Kohaku's development and her importance to the themes of the story, let's talk about other aspects of her character that also make her complex. First, her relationship with Hisui gives further evidence that, despite what she says, she does care for some people with certainty. After all, she goes through hell for Hisui by taking all the pain Makihisa could dish out without letting any fall on Hisui. Also, when Hisui learns about this and becomes cold, Kohaku takes her place as the cheery maid. Of course, she did this because she was envious of Hisui's happiness. So, she believed if she acted like Hisui, then she herself would become happy. However, her role switch was also done out of love. Hisui had learned what happened to Kohaku, and so Hisui felt a huge amount of guilt, and started becoming more cold. But Kohaku would take on this new role so that by becoming like Hisui was, it'd kinda give the hint to Hisui that it was okay for her to become cheerful again, and so she would. This actually counts as another purpose for her to have. Wait until Hisui comes out of her shell. But of course, when this purpose is fulfilled, she decides she'll stop acting cheerful because, well, there's no more purpose to it. She also decided to stop acting cheerful when Hisui becomes happy for another reason. You see, the main reason why Hisui remains a cold person is because Hisui believes that if she becomes cheerful again, Kohaku would then start acting cold again. Here's where it might get convoluted, but I'm thinking that Kohaku has likely realized how Hisui feels on this. So, we see that in Hisui's route, where Hisui is about to become the cheerful girl again, but still has the guilt holding her back, Kohaku does a pro gamer mood and shanks herself. That way, Hisui will no longer feel guilty about becoming cheerful and taking Kohaku's role, because Kohaku is no more. Again though, the only line of dialogue supporting this is this single one, so take what I said with a few grains of salt. So, why did I talk about Kohaku giving Hisui her cheerful role back? Well, it serves as further proof of how Kohaku did want the best for Hisui. Even if the whole role switching thing wasn't the main reason Kohaku killed herself, the fact that Kohaku was willing to give her role back to Hisui through such a method does show how she loved Hisui. Finally, let's talk about her revenge, and why she pursued it and such. The reason why she so greatly pursues her revenge, despite not wanting it, is simply because it gives her a purpose. I mean, if you're forcing yourself to not feel any emotions, and you don't have any greater purpose, then really, how is that any different from death? Having emotions and motivations are what separates life from death after all. So, since Kohaku doesn't have any emotions, she accounts for this by trying to attain a motivation. But, well, you may be wondering, why does she choose something as drastic as revenge? Well, it's because revenge is really the only goal she can have. She can't just decide to stop being a maid and leave the mansion. Her freedom is extremely limited. This of course means many typical goals, such as becoming an astronaut or a hero of justice, are ones she can never fulfill. But what she can fulfill is revenge. She doesn't want to do it, and she even feels bad about it, showing again how she can't kill her emotions. However, if she doesn't pursue a goal like revenge, what else will she live for? And we see, if she takes her revenge, there's no reason for her to keep going, so she commits low tier god. I also believe there's another reason why Kohaku sought revenge. Way early in this video, I discussed how Kohaku could never really get rid of her emotions. I think Kohaku was aware of how she could still feel emotions deep down, and that's another reason why she tried to take revenge, to basically focus on pursuing that as a distraction from the growing pain inside her. That's another reason why she commits low tier god at the end of Hisui's route. No matter if her revenge plans are fulfilled or foiled, all that's left for her is to confront her feelings and the pain she tried so hard to destroy, which tears at her especially since we see that Kohaku feels regret over trying to kill Akiya. Overall, Kohaku is a super tragic character, going through such immense trauma that she felt becoming emotionless was her only option. In one round, she even kills herself, because she can't rid herself of the pain among other reasons. And yet, Kohaku is also a really inspirational character. I think every one of us has, at some point in our lives, felt like life would just be better if we couldn't experience any emotions and become like machines. No pleasure, but at least no pain either. Yet, Kohaku shows us in many ways why such an idea is stupid. Just like Kohaku, we the audience should also learn to accept pain, accept our emotions, and cherish everyday life. So yeah, that's the analysis, but I'm not done yet. Let's go over a couple other cool things about her. So first, her theme's great. Now, I know you're thinking, what theme? There's only 10 tracks in Tsukihime, and none of them are played only in her scenes. Well, this track isn't from Tsukihime, it's in Tsukihime's fighting game, MELTY. Just listen to it. How can you not bang your head on a desk as this plays? So that'll be the end of this video. Let me know if this analysis was an L or not, and have a good day.
Welcome to my mine. We are mining diamonds.